All right, welcome everybody. This is the third podcast. This is the podcast right after the Hawaii game and right before the Miami game this week. The Hawaii game was pretty awesome last week. I was there. James, where did you watch it?
At a friend's house who paid for game plan, so I didn't have to.
That's pretty cool. I was at the game. I saw a couple of our other friends, Ryan Crutchfield and Alex Nickdell, and it was really, really fun. We scored all of our points in the second and third quarters. We won 56-10. Our team looked really, really good. We had a lot of promising things to say about the defense. I thought that they played really, really well. We had 3 picks, and we also had 2 of those picks run back for touchdowns. And we had a special teams touchdown run back by Brandon James. The offense really didn't have to do much, but they did do a lot on the ground, totaling over 200 yards rushing, which is really, really great to see because that was kind of one of our weak spots last year when Tebow couldn't get it going on the ground. What are your thoughts on last week's game?
Well, I just want to point out that we did average 200 yards rushing last year. The main thing was in the way that we got those yards, because as you said, the offense didn't need to do that much with the defense and special teams scores. At one point, we were keeping score. Okay, the offense has 6, the defense has 6, special teams has 2 extra points, that kind of thing, to see who would come out ahead. Well, I don't have that in front of me, but I think the offense probably ended up winning. They have an advantage in that regard. The main thing that I heard coming out of the game were people worried about Tebow or said that he didn't do that much or didn't look that good. I'm not worried about him at all. I don't think too many Gator fans actually are. I think that people were looking for a story where there wasn't one. He really didn't have to do much, and he didn't do anything, and why should we open up the playbook when we won by more than 40 already? So I think that it was kind of workmanlike, get through this game, try to avoid injuries, and get on to the next game.
I agree. Tebow was 9 for 14 for 137 yards. Yes, it's not really flashy. He did have a long touchdown pass to Lewis Murphy for 48 yards. But he didn't really have to do much, and it's good that we don't have to count on him for every single game. And I hope that when people view games like this, they notice that he doesn't have to go out and throw for over 300 yards and rush for over 150 yards for us to win a game. I know we weren't playing the best caliber of a team, especially a team that lost a lot from last year. But it's just good to see that we could rely on some other people like Demps and Rainey. Keyshawn Moore had a couple of good carries. Brandon James was good. And it also got a lot of experience for some of the guys that aren't going to be starting. I mean, Demps isn't starting. He still had 2 carries for 76 yards and that one long touchdown, 62 yards. It was good to see some other people that we might be counting on either later this year or possibly in the future next year or the year after. We'll go ahead and move to the Miami game coming up this week. Miami won last week pretty handily, even though they didn't play a major school. They played Charleston Directional Southern, and they won 52-7. They were up 35-0 early in the third quarter. It really wasn't a game at all. Ja'Cory Harris had a pretty good game, 190 yards and a touchdown, 16 for 26 passing. This week, they get Robert Marve back, and they're going to be going to that 2-quarterback system that they were talking about doing earlier this summer. I really don't know what to think about that, especially since this is Marve's first game, and it's going to be in the swamp with a lot of noise, and he's probably going to be rattled a bit. But, I still think that they have a pretty solid defense, and they also, they have some playmakers on offense, so it's not going to be a major league blowout. I saw that earlier. The Vegas line is 21 points, and I thought that was a bit high. I think it'll be a little closer than that. I hope it's, much higher than that, but I think it'll be a lot closer than people might think. Maybe 2 touchdowns, 14 points or so.
Well, this weekend, I do want to say I expect a blowout. I don't know that I'd take a 21-point line. That's the screwed up thing about gambling on college sports. I probably would have taken any line you gave me about Tennessee, and that just tells you not to bet on Phil Fulmer more than anything about college football as a whole, I guess. As far as this weekend, yeah, Robert Marve, first game in the swamp. I think everyone's going to be pumped up. It'll be the biggest crowd a lot of those Miami kids have ever seen, both from because a lot of them are freshmen, but probably even I'm not sure where all they played road games last year, but the Swamp is definitely a unique place. I didn't get to see the Miami game last week, so I can't say I know much about their team other than the strength is supposed to be the defense. So if they can put some drives together, which was a problem for our defense last year, was allowing other teams' offenses to stay on the field and keep our offense off the field. Miami's successful doing that, then I think that they could keep the score down and keep it close, as Chris said. However, talent wise, as in how the players are actually playing and where they are at in their college career, we're way beyond this Miami team and should be able to win handily.
Yeah, last week Miami only gave up 126 yards total, and that was including only 81 yards passing. I know this, it's hard to compare when you're playing against a team like this, but that just shows that they could stop some teams, and they're probably not going to give up a ton of yardage this season, but if that's going to be their strength. No, on the other side of the ball, I mean, really, how many teams are going to be able to stop our offense to a large scale? I don't think many are, especially when we start throwing the ball. We only attempted 14 passes last week. So, yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be 14 points, maybe 17-point win. I'd like to see something a lot bigger, but yeah, I think it'll be a lower scoring game. I don't think we're going to hang 50 on them. And if we do, that's a great sign because, they do have a good defense. They do have a lot of speed, and they should be able to, cover some of our receivers and whatnot. Let's go back to last week's games around college football. I wanted to talk about a couple teams that I saw that I thought were extremely impressive. Last week I saw USC absolutely annihilate Virginia, and I was watching a lot of that game, and the disparity in talent on that field was ridiculous. That team is so fast, so strong. They're really, really good, and I don't I don't think any of the teams in the Pac-10 could even come close to them as of right now. I know we're only one game deep, but they looked like a juggernaut on the field. Also, I was very surprised by the UCLA Tennessee final. James had mentioned to me in passing that Tennessee's really consistent at being inconsistent, and they have a lot of trouble with showing up in certain games, but at other times they could look fantastic and come out and whip you. So I still don't know what to think on Tennessee. I'm still scared of them in Knoxville, but a lot less than I was last week.
Yeah, well, obviously I agree with you because I said it, but the point on Tennessee is, last year they got beat by what, a couple touchdowns away against Cal, and then we blew them out. But then that Georgia team that everyone talks up last year as being, possibly the best team in the country at the end of the year. Whatever you think about that, people say it, but Tennessee, beat them pretty soundly. And it seems like every year, if somebody squeaks into the game with the Eastern Division crown, it's them. But they've only had the 1 year where they really put it together. And the whole thing with Phil Fulmer's contract, where he gets an automatic 1 year extension every time they get 8 wins, is kind of stupid to me that they're rewarding that sort of mediocrity.
Yeah, what if Zook got that?
Yeah, that was the example I used. So how long would Ron Zook be our coach? Because at a place like Tennessee or a place like Florida, you should really get what does Urban Meyer say? You win 6 or 7 games just based on talent, or what do you say? A monkey can win 7 games or something like that. And so I didn't know what that meant about some of these
Yeah.
some of the years we've had. Well, for last week's game, I watched our game. I got to see a little bit of some other games. I didn't get to see the USC game at all. I did watch Alabama and Clemson,
And boy, did they look good.
which was a great time, I guess, for the SEC. Alabama looked really good, but again, they had all summer to prepare for that game, and they had a lot of young guys that were certainly fired up and ready to go, and Clemson has sort of a habit of choking in these kind of games. So while I buy into Alabama as being, probably a top 20 team, am I worried about them threatening to win the division crown or something like some other columnists have indicated this week? I think that's jumping the gun a little bit. I want to see how they perform week in, week out with all those young players. But they are